Going live. Boom! According to that, we are live. Welcome. This is Tokyo Tonight. Sorry, I was late. I was playing around with technical stuff. I've put the camera back to the regular webcam. The iPhone thing seemed like a good idea. I played with the camera settings a little bit, see if I could make it look a little bit sharper today. So hopefully it's looking better just off the regular webcam. So that's a thing. Yeah, I've got the little mini old iPhone. I think this is an iPhone 5. I've got that controlling the slides. Got a fair few topics tonight, actually, although I'm hoping I'll get through them in good speed. A lot of them are about the same subjects. But yeah, it's Paralympics started this week. There's been a monkey on the loose in Tokyo. There's been, the good news is, I suppose, that the number of cases in Tokyo, nationwide, the cases are still going up everywhere. Clearly, this seems to be from people from Tokyo going out to other places. It's brought the numbers down in Tokyo and made it go crazy everywhere else. But it did actually come down this time last year. There was a peak this time last year during the Obon vacation when everyone goes to their hometowns. So, yeah, the numbers seem to be coming down, except, of course, the number of serious cases from the people who got it earlier is still going up. So that always lags, and as a result, the medical system, the hospital system here is still overwhelmed. So you definitely still do not want to be getting COVID right now in Tokyo. But, there's some good signs anyway that things are getting better, at least for this wave. But yeah, I'm now officially, as of Friday, it takes 2 weeks, I think, for the vaccine to take full effect. I got the Moderna one, which is the subject of some discussion in the news, which I'll cover a bit later on. But I'm now officially fully protected. Although I realized right away that, as soon as I had it, all the big plans, I don't have anywhere to go. I've been jogging a bit this week. It's been still super hot. I mean, again, we are still very much in the zone between July and mid-September of just don't come here. It's just not worth it. Horrible weather in terms of it just being hot all the time. So still dealing with that, but chugging along. Of course, not very much happening, given that I'm just basically sitting in this room working at this desk all day, every day. But everything's good. How is everybody? Good to see so many people already there in the comments. So I'm going to go and say hello, and then we can kick it off. See how we get through the topics tonight. But we've got Clank Guns 72. Oi, indeed, good to see you in here. Ranbato. Yeah, I made a mistake. They changed the interface for when you set up the live stream. It's actually more complicated now. It used to be that you just have monetization on or off, and the time that you want it to start, just right in 10:30. But now there's a whole bunch of screens, and I didn't actually find the right place to put in the time. So I think the time it showed for some people, it was going live at 10:15. I had to go back and fix it. So sorry for the confusion that might have caused. But it's 10:32 technically when I started. So sorry for that. But Rambato, good to have you with us. We've got Shubhas from Panama, made it. Lately, on time, every time. Very good to see. I know it's early in the morning, so I do appreciate it, Shubhas. Buenos dias. I hope you're having a good cup of coffee and enjoying. It's not a dissertation, but I hope you enjoy the show. We've got AV84K testing with the bells and butter. Butter boom, butter bell, butter boom. Is that what that is? Yes. Anyway, I like it. I wish that Google wouldn't censor it. It wasn't me. Pardon me. That's like frog in my throat. Get the party started indeed. Aaron, good to see you. Aaron put up an edited video yesterday of the one talking about the effect of Obon that I was talking about at the start of this. So thank you for that, Aaron, and thank you always for the moderator duties. Really appreciate it. We've got Dan H in here. Good to see you, Dan H. We've got Sergeant Bilko saying hello to everybody. Party time indeed. Everybody putting on their party hats. Good to see. We've got Quint Rankid. Hi, good to see you, Quint Rankid. Who else we got here? Odie Jr. Just making sure I'm not missing anybody. Odie Jr. Excellent to see you. We've got Tai Nakamura. Ohio. And congrats. By the way, I don't think I've said this, but congrats on the wedding. Awesome. Great. Good for you, man. 270 AJ, good to see you. Got Subaru the car, good to see Subaru the car indeed. I got the shirt. I'm actually not allowed to wear it around the house. My wife complains that it gives her headaches. I think she's a bit anti the Olympics as well, but I figured might as well get the t-shirt. These things are actually, yes, they are blinding to look at, but they are actually super comfortable and cheap. I got it online. I'm a happy camper. I actually didn't get a volunteer. The volunteer one is like blue and it looks kind of nicer, but then I'd actually worry that people would start to think I was like an AWOL international volunteer or member. So yeah, there's that. But I'm enjoying wearing these as sort of houseware at the moment anyway, or pajamas or whatnot. So yeah, there's that. Cobras Tenshi, good to see you, Cobras Tenshi. Squirrel indeed, there are squirrels everywhere. We are living in the land of squirrels. Oh, speaking of which, I've lost the place in the chat there. Where were you? Boom. Cobras Tenshi, a squirrel, yes. A rabbit for Equal Simon to chase before the show progresses too far indeed, which reminds me I've got to get going soon because there are a lot of topics. Odie Jr., we need an update. How's my lawsuit on the Tokyo Tonight title theft going? NBC, I let them off with a stern warning, I guess. So I expect they won't be doing it again. Or they will, who knows, either one. DJ Sunny Side Up, getting a first shot September 16. Congrats on that, DJ Sunny Side Up. Yeah, you know, I've heard the full range of side effects from the shot. Obviously, the shot is still way less scary than obviously getting it, so absolutely get it. But, you know, get some liquids, drink a lot of water before you take it and after you take it. That helps the body adapt to it. And yeah, I never had more than like a 37 point. Got up to 37.8 at one point, but pretty mild. Slept a bit. You know, it's pretty cool. But yeah, take it easy. Just be ready for a bit of fever. Particularly, I got Moderna, which is more likely with that. But congrats on getting the shot, and yeah, get it done. Yeah, good stuff, DJ Sunny Side Up. Yeah, booster shots coming in the US indeed. We've got Andrea Morboy, good to see you. Lockdown city indeed. Yeah, Melbourne's been sounding pretty awful, and Sydney even more so, and New Zealand even more than Victoria and Sydney. So you know, pretty tough. I think everyone's pretty much giving up at the moment. Bada bing, bada boom. Thank you, Aaron. God, yes, not bada bell, bada boom. Although bada bell, bada boom sounds pretty good as well. But no, that was wrong. Thank you for the correction there, Aaron. Yeah, it sounds like New Zealand and New South Wales are going to have to learn to actually do without zero COVID. You know, in the end of the day, it's going to have to go through one way or the other. You just want everyone to be vaccinated when it happens, so that's the problem right now. But yeah. Oh, we've got who else we got in here? We've gotten jumped ahead there. Ninja Monkey, you may not be aware, but I've actually been shouting out your channel like every week lately. I'm actually really enjoying your updates. I'm so embarrassed that I even I didn't know who you were when we were on the Akasan thing together. And yeah, listen, if any of you are interested in traveling to Japan, I said this every week, I'll say it again. Ninja Monkey, there in the chat, this guy, if you want to travel to Japan and you are interested in when the borders are going to reopen and for whom and how, this person is actually watching it the closest and is putting up, like, I think twice a week videos lately. So I think there's a midweek and a weekend video that he's putting out, and the way that you put together the information and summarize it and everything is actually, and just being focused on that subject, and there's so many people who are just interested in that subject. You know, I chase all the subjects, all the squirrels. If you're just interested in when to come back to Japan, Ninja Monkey actually puts together all the latest information the best. You do an excellent job. I'm really impressed, actually. I enjoy watching your videos myself. I download them because I subscribe to YouTube Premium. I put them on my watch list. I watch it every week. Because it's on a watch list, I don't necessarily comment every time. But highly recommend Ninja Monkey's channel. So good to have you there in the chat there, and keep making those good videos. Yeah, we've got DJ Sunny Side Up. Do I suggest I take an aspirin before the shot? No, just they actually tell you that you want to go and get something like they actually have at the pharmacies. They've got they'll tell you what to get. I got Loxotonin. In fact, I think I've still got it. One sec. Not Loxotonin, Loxonin, this stuff, which you normally just get a Tylenol if you're in the US, but in Japan they don't have that, so you either get Eve or this. And that's what they told me to get, and that'll deal with headaches, and it will deal with you know, the side effects, the fevers and so on, if you need it. So I got that. I only took one, like, at night the second day. So go to the pharmacy. I don't know if aspirin is good or bad for it, but you know, I didn't need anything on the first shot. On the second shot I just took one. So I got it pretty mild, but I know people who had like 39-degree fevers. So, you just want to be prepared. But yeah, Sainted Sir, good to see you from New York. Wow. Early in the morning. Good to have you with us. Yeah, Andrea Mulboy, just over the lockdown. No idea. This one has gotten to people in Melbourne. Lockdown 6 is gone. Yeah. I've seen the riots and whatnot. So yeah, it looks pretty bleak down there. Yeah, sorry to hear that. Boom. Anyone else here? We've got Barry Bonds. Good to see you. What's up indeed? Barry Bonds, good to have you with us. Aaron, very, very excellent. Thank you for putting the link to Ninja Monkey's latest vid. Like I say, I mean, seriously, the best channel if you're interested in prospects for Japan opening up again. It really is. Shripit, good to have you, Shripit, from Budapest. Wow. Okay, nice to have someone from Budapest in here, and I think I've probably noticed that before. But I'm saying wow again. I love that. Good to have you with us indeed. Yeah. Ninja Monkey, no obligation to watch this at all. Believe me, this is all just random, stuff. It's actually better to have a theme like you do, and it makes it recommendable. So yeah, congrats, you're doing a good job. That's basically what I'm saying. Anyway, that is hello to everybody. Let's dive into the topics. It's 10:44 Japan time, so before it gets any later. You can see the clock behind me there, 10:44. Boom. So the first one's, like I said, I just realized this week that I was, that 2 weeks after the second vaccination is when you're considered to be like maximum antibodied. I am now basically, antibody Superman at the moment, which isn't to say that I can't get it. I know I can get it. I can even get it and get sick. I can even get it and get seriously sick. But the odds are like much less, like 1 in 20 of without the vaccine. So I'm way better off with it, obviously. I'm not changing any behavior. There's nothing to do anyway. I can't go into work in the office. I've got no hobbies. My son still is at home on summer vacation. I'm still busy with work. So but at the same time, just doing my part, to make sure that the whole country is vaccinated, and based on that, things like travel can resume. So yeah, a little bit sad that I actually don't have an interesting enough life to take advantage of my fully, in effect, vaccination status. But yeah, still pretty good to have. Another thing, during the week I saw Matt Elt, who is just somebody who is like a writer and commentator on Japanese culture, a walking encyclopedia of Japanese culture. Just someone who I respect very much. I always feel deeply inadequate when I've had the pleasure of joining some conversations with him online that other people are hosting. But I might as well be joining a conversation about math with Albert Einstein. It's like I'm completely, I feel such a fraud around him. He's published books, and they are good books. I actually went and got this one from Japan, Amazon, Pure Invention. And yeah, I saw people reading it and leaving great reviews. And again, I know what a mind of information and how great he is at presenting it in an interesting way, and just basically the way that different aspects of Japanese culture, specifically things like, the Nintendo, Famicom, and manga, and, how they sort of influence and change the world. And they're always fascinating sort of stories. So, I'll do my own review of it when I've read it, but I'm very glad to get that in paperback. And yeah, certainly someone worth following. Into the comments, because Simon, I'm already super. Thank you very much. We've got Dan H. Thoughts on Japanese 10-year bonds didn't trade last Tuesday. I actually didn't know anything about that, so I'm afraid I don't have thoughts on it. But Japanese 10-year bonds didn't trade last Tuesday. I totally missed that. I've been busy with work this week. So, no, I'm afraid I don't have anything I can really say. That didn't register on my radar at all. Ninja Monkey. Oh, by the way, everyone, if you want to get my attention in the breaks in between comments, just say my name, like Andrea Mulway did. If it flashes orange, I skip over. I can't read all the comments. So basically, I'll only read the comments that are directed at me. At least during the show. So if you've got something you want to ask me or comment to me or ask me to talk about, just do what Dan H. and Andrew Morbid. You don't actually even need to do the @ mark, just write Hiko Simon. But Ninja Monkey just commenting there, one of your friends has COVID, got vaccinated, and then got COVID again a few months later. Need to continue to be vigilant, indeed. Yeah, certainly. I mean, stats say that you're definitely better off being vaccinated, but it isn't a cure, and it doesn't prevent you getting it. It just makes it more mild. So, and probably eventually everybody's going to get it. It's going to be like getting the flu or the cold or whatever. It's just going to be unavoidable, I think. But, in the end of the day, when we're at least when society is ready, that we can actually have it go through society like colds and like, flu does, because we're all vaccinated, and, it won't lead to mass deaths. That's when things can start to go back to some kind of normal. So that's why I got vaccinated, and that's why other people should. But yeah. Anyway, that's Matt Elt's book. So COVID situation, let's give the latest. As of today, I mentioned before, things are going in the right direction. They've gone down from above 5,000 cases a day to today down to 3,081 cases in Tokyo, which is like 1,000 down over the same day last week. So week on week, the cases are plummeting. I did make a bit of a kind of bad taste joke that it's almost like The Ring, this idea that you give it, everybody's gone out of Tokyo for a Obon. They've clearly given it. All the cities around Tokyo and all the other major cities and tourist spots have become like record cases of COVID, which almost certainly is from people from Tokyo traveling to those places. So Tokyo's gone down and everywhere else has gone up, which is almost like The Ring, like making them watch the video. It's pretty awful. Seriously, they should have. I mean, the government, governors didn't ask people in Tokyo, hey, can you please not travel and give us your goodies? Until after the vacation already started. It was already pointless. They asked people to cancel plans the day after Obon started. So, of course, nobody did that. Everybody traveled. But, in Tokyo, it seems to have worked. We seem to have given it to other people. It's obviously not how diseases work, but, it's playing out that way. I mean, it's great to see the numbers coming down, but that said, still 296 serious cases. And remember, those are the most like on life support type cases. There are other cases that would normally be hospitalized, but because they're all out of COVID beds in hospitals, people are being put on respirators and, support sort of mechanisms at homes. And when they get worse and they have to be suddenly taken to a hospital in an emergency situation, the other situation is that all the intensive care unit beds are full. There are people that need to be in intensive care units and hospitals that can't that can't get into them right now, and that's leading to deaths. So the Tokyo medical system continues to be in a state of collapse, and the number of serious cases, which of course lags the number of actual cases, because it takes it can get worse for like a week, more than a week, before it gets to that state. So still the medical system is completely overwhelmed. And of course, it's not entirely clear that cases are necessarily going to stay down, because, it could just be that people are away on vacation, and indeed many medical clinics are closed or whatever. You'd think if it gets serious enough that they need intensive care, they won't hide that. They won't avoid going to an ICU because they're on vacation. But we'll see if it rebounds a little bit next week when school resumes. Actually, schools are resuming the week after next, and with Delta being so contagious, and with so many more kids now getting it, there are concerns about when kids go back to school, they're going to pick it up and spread it in their families. And family spread is the number one source of COVID cases in Tokyo right now. But, and it could very well be that the summer vacations still happening for kids are a big factor. That again, there's lots of things that could make this go south again in a week or two. They've delayed the resumption of school from this week to week after next, just to see if they can get things more under control. So we'll see how that goes. But that said, leader of the opposition is saying, the last time we had a significant wave, 2 waves ago, that really brought the medical system in Tokyo to the brink. There was a bed shortage and whatever. Basically we're in the same situation. There are still the same number of beds. The extra capacity that was clearly lacking during the third wave, we're in the 5th wave right now. Nothing was done to beef that up. So the leader of the opposition is saying, what the hell was everyone doing for 6 months? Was there no preparation to enhance capacity to be able to handle necessary medical care now? And right now we're dealing with the Delta wave, and who knows, we could be dealing with the Lambda wave, or Delta could get worse. So there is a question being asked right now that this was totally foreseeable. It was actually absolutely predictable that it would get this bad, and so why is the medical system not better? I suppose there's a limited number of doctors and nurses, and those that are there are burning out. But at the same time, of course, hospitals are still, deciding how many beds they'll allocate for COVID treatment and how much they're going to keep for other outpatients and so on. The other problem being, of course, that the cost of COVID care is very high for the hospitals. It's actually, there's a hospital in Osaka, the first case of a hospital in Osaka that treats COVID patients that went out of business. So, it's difficult for the hospitals, but there again, if it's an economic problem, then the government should be, fixing that. They shouldn't be allowing the hospitals to go out of business. If they're short of staff and beds, those are bigger challenges. You can't just train people in a hurry, but that's part of it. There's a very good explainer in Bloomberg by Lisa Du, who has the very amusing Twitter handle of Lisa Don't, which basically explained all of these things. And again, ambulances, there's always been this problem, for example, with pregnancies and so on, of hospitals just being freely able to decline emergency patients in ambulances. But now it's basically that it takes hours. Like there are cases now where the ambulances will go around for hours, be turned down by hundreds, dozens or whatever of hospitals. And in the end, they give up and they go back to the house and they set them up with a respirator in the house and say, we'll try again tomorrow. That's how bad it is right now. So it's another good reason you don't want to go out. You definitely do not want to be getting COVID in Tokyo right now because, you could very well not be getting care for it. Sort of linked. And by the way, for editing purposes, this is all part of the COVID update. So, Aaron, there's a lot of elements, but don't worry about chopping these up per se. Another interesting part of this that's kind of infuriating is that, of course, the rollout of vaccines in Japan have been sort of done on a nationwide by age and high-risk group basis. So people with diabetes or with pre-existing conditions that make them more vulnerable to COVID, as well as people who are basically going from over 65 to now people in their 50s and so on. They're rolling out the vaccines by age group. Which means that if you're in a small rural town where they got all the vaccines for everybody all at once, small rural towns have basically been successful at vaccinating everybody, including young people in their 20s, teenagers and so on, all everybody early. But if you're in a high population area like Tokyo, they have not been able to supply the local councils with anything more than a number of vaccines that are available for the staged rollout for different age groups. So in most parts of Tokyo and other large cities, it's actually, even for people in their 40s, unless you can get a shot at work like I did, it's actually pretty challenging. There are some wards that do allow people to walk up, particularly for if they're if there were bookings for vaccinations which weren't fulfilled and they don't want to throw them out, they allow people to walk up and get them at the end of the day and whatever, some clinics. So there are ways to get them if you're younger, but basically most wards, there's no way to get a shot. Everyone's just waiting for the turn to come around where the reservations come open. Most people will have their voucher card for their vaccine voucher, but their age group is not allowed to make online bookings until like next month or the month after. So everyone's sort of waiting. And yet, in spite of this, there's this narrative going around from politicians and so on, which are particularly scolding the reckless behavior of young people, going out and acting like they're invincible. And there's this kind of media narrative that young people, they don't even care. And surveys show that they are vaccine hesitant, that they're not interested in getting vaccinated. And this is partly just that it's a long way off. And, 10-20% of people saying they're concerned or don't plan to get it. And so based on this perception, so basically the governor of Tokyo has been consistently scolding young people for being vaccine hesitant when they're not even able to get access to vaccines, if they want them. Apparently based on this perception that young people are ruining Tokyo and acting recklessly and are vaccine hesitant, they decided that it'd be a good idea to promote the idea of young people getting vaccinated by putting like a demonstration vaccine center that anyone can use of any age from anywhere in Greater Tokyo, 35 million people, right beside Shibuya, right beside the youth district in Tokyo. And they thought they'd put that there and they'll just say, hey, anyone can walk up, you don't need a reservation, so you don't need to wait. If you want a vaccine now, let's make it the popular thing to do in Shibuya to get a vaccine. So they set up the center and it started working the other day. And of course, the first day, the line of people, young people who can't get vaccinated, who are desperate to get vaccinated, they set it up so that it didn't work, that you could make a reservation online. You had to show up there. But of course, if there are too many people, which there were, they would handwrite out application forms and do like a lottery, and then they would announce on the internet later on who were the winners who got to go and get a shot that day. But the result was they were only offering 300 shots, and yet the queue of people trying to get shots extended from Shibuya to Harajuku. It was more than a kilometer long. More than 1,000 people lined up for 300 in fact, it worked out a ratio of more than 6. So it was like 2,200, I think, was the number, lining up for 300 shots. They were lining up in 35, 36 degree heat for hours, actually putting themselves at risk of heat stroke as well as COVID, because it's a really densely populated, crowded area. And they did this again today, and the same thing happened. There's people, even though they know it's a lottery, that they've only got a 1 in 6 chance of being one of the lucky people to do it, people are still lining up because they're so desperate to get vaccinated. The Tokyo governor actually went on TV last night and said, yeah, maybe that narrative that young people are vaccine hesitant wasn't correct. Sorry about that, our bad. The Minister of Vaccines and also the Minister of Administrative Simplification and Technology, Taro Kono, he said it was seems a little bit ill thought out by Tokyo that they're making people line up in the street for kilometers for a shot that they're most likely not going to get. Like they couldn't have just done this online. They should have done this online. It seems he used the expression ill thought out, which I translated on Twitter as he called them idiots, which is what he was doing. So yeah, again, and people are going to remember this. This is like basically the Tokyo governor has been like blaming young people for, not getting vaccinated when she was withholding vaccines from them. And when she just provided a few, people went crazy for them. And now you have this. So, just kind of just stupid on top of stupid. So Taro Kono calls her stupid for offering vaccinations. Yoyaku nashi, 若い世代向けワクチン接種予約なしは無謀, saying you should have set up a reservation system on the internet so you're not putting people in danger and wasting their times, which seems about right. The same minister is also pointing out there's this problem in Japan. Well, one, they're trying to figure out how to get the vaccine stockpile that they have rolled out to more people faster. There's this thing. Japan has a ton of AstraZeneca vaccines that they've just decided not to use. Plus, now there's been this scare the other day. I don't know if other countries are seeing this, but with Moderna, apparently most of the Moderna shots that are coming into Japan were produced in Spain. And apparently they found 2 batches of the Moderna, amounting to 1.6 million doses of the Moderna vaccines that have been used in Japan, had like foreign objects, either rubber or metal or other sort of objects. Basically these were contaminated. It was they immediately said it wasn't from Takeda in Japan that also makes Moderna. It was from the Spanish factory. So blame Spain, I guess. But they pointed out that they have to now get rid of and destroy 1.6 million doses, but also a lot of them have already been administered. And when they started chasing up, who got this batch? Did anyone get injected with these sort of contaminated batches? It turns out they found 2 correlated. Not necessarily, they haven't established a link at the moment, but for example, 2 people, 30, 35, had no pre-existing conditions who got the Moderna shot and, died the next day. So there's a problem there that's scaring people off Moderna. Also, of course, they're finding in Europe that it actually makes the vaccines more effective to mix them up anyway, to have, Moderna first and AstraZeneca second or whatever. And that lets them use the stockpile more and get to more people. So they're getting rid of the contaminated batches to make sure it's safe, and they'll resume when they're going. Remember, I had Moderna and I'm cool with it. Obviously, nothing happened to me, however. But, that's just needless extra concern. And it's a good way to actually try to accelerate and spread the vaccinated population. But yeah, so that's a concern. They're looking into seeing if that was linked to the actual contamination of the batches. And while all that's going on, I don't know what's going on at the moment with all these people who seem to be mostly in America, but Facebook encouraging people to take like horse medicine, and people are getting actual I'm hearing stories. Well, I guess the funniest stories are the people who are shitting themselves in supermarkets and whatnot from taking horse medicine because they read it on Facebook and because they're afraid to get vaccinated. There's actual medicine, scientific medicine that will actually protect you from this, and instead people are taking anti-parasitic sheep and cow and horse tablets, And, people are going blind, people are getting liver damage, and people are crapping themselves in public because they don't trust vaccines. I mean, how stupid are some people? I must admit, it's so exasperating to read it, but yeah, at some point, you wonder, is it worth even trying to save people that want to do this to themselves, that want to poison themselves out of, because they trust Facebook and their conspiracy theorist Facebook group more than they trust science and doctors. At some point, I think you've just got to let nature sort them out, honestly. And this also feeds into the thing in Delta Airlines is now saying that, they are going to, while they're more or less making it mandatory, I think, for staff to get vaccinated, they're also saying as well that people who are enrolled and they choose not to get vaccinated have to pay extra premiums for their insurance and whatnot. They'll have to pay the company money for that, and and insurance companies are now looking like they're starting to withhold coverage from unvaccinated people because they don't want to pay for the costs of these people who are getting themselves sick. So there's that. But anyway, that's all the COVID updates. Quite a lot of them went past 11 o'clock, but I think I went through them in rapid fire. So into the comments to go catch up. Let's see, we've got not so many comments, so that's pretty good. Quint Rankin, no business has sprung up to check all the hospitals for beds on behalf of a person in the ambulance instead of having them waste petrol and time. Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I know that such services sort of exist, but in the end of the day, it comes down to checking each hospital one by one. And often it sounds like when they talk about it on TV, the doctors talk about how they hustle. Like, the moment somebody dies and a bed comes open, it's like going immediately. You've got 5 people going for it, all sort of jostling for it. It does sound like something that should be better managed. But again, you've just got completely overwhelmed system at the moment. Yeah, somebody should do that totally, Quint. You are correct. Quint Rankin, there are multiple forms of ivermectin. There is a form for humans, but it's not antiviral. Yeah. I mean, but the fact that people are taking the animal versions and poisoning themselves is just nuts to me. But yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's perhaps sounded so. That's sort of what it starts to look like, doesn't it? I mean, again, how hard do you try to save people from themselves when they're so angry and determined to do this to themselves, right? So yeah, next story, some interesting news from my perspective as someone who wants to travel to New Zealand and Australia. It looks like Qantas is planning to resume flights to Japan in December. Now, maybe they know something that I don't. Maybe Ninja Monkey knows something that I don't. But, Ninja Monkey is the person I would normally go and check for this sort of thing. But, my theory, which I shared during the week, that with the Olympics ending soon and basically immigration right now is all totally, overwhelmed just dealing with people coming in and out for the Olympics. But with vaccination rates going up and Japan's vaccination passport scheme now starting to work and whatnot, there's a hope that perhaps, if Australia somehow isn't as bad as it is right now, maybe by December, I mean, if Qantas is planning to resume flights, perhaps there will also be opportunities for people with vaccine passports, people who are vaccinated, to actually travel to Australia without all the quarantine and restrictions. So yeah, I do. It's pure speculation on my part, but I do think that it makes sense that when the immigration resources are freed up for regular sort of travel, I think it would be drip-fed and slow and restricted, probably to business travel, I would think, first, and people who have been waiting with working visas and maybe student visas, let them come into the country first, when they start to reopen. But I can imagine by the end of the year or the start of next year that we could be getting back into a situation of, again, probably vaccine passport-based travel. And given the vaccination rate for Japan, and the rate right now, we're up to almost the same number of shots as the population, i.e. 50% overall. I think we crossed like 125 million shots probably on Friday. So, the vaccination scheme is basically 1.2, to 1.5 million shots a day getting done in Japan. So at that rate, by like November, theoretically, everyone in the country that wants a shot should be able to be vaccinated by then. And indications are that, the rate's going to be pretty high for Japan. So, opportunities. Qantas is planning to resume travel. So who knows? I could be actually able to travel next year, which would be nice. I'm not as desperate to get out of the country, I think, as some people are, but at the same time, would be nice to be able to see family, particularly with Australia and New Zealand being so locked down. I don't have a lot of hope for that situation changing soon, but it's a nice sign that Qantas is planning that anyway. The other thing, by the way, it's weird. I don't miss like air travel that much, and I'm managing to do without traveling. I mean, normally I travel once a year to Australia, and or New Zealand. But I am and watch. I think I've shared this before, but I love this channel, Travel Trek. That I think I've featured this before. Trek Trendy, sorry, that's the name of the channel. This person just flies around the world, even with COVID going on. He's figured out how to basically wangle using points and discounts and waiting lists and whatever. And he just flies first class around the world and reviews all the first class of different airlines. And right now with the pandemic, of course, he's able to get some really good deals, and all he does is just fly first class everywhere. And apparently ANA, which is like the fancy, like the Lexus of Japanese airlines, they're the fancier one, and they've got a brand new Boeing 777 based first class suite. And he just did a feature flying. Apparently he wangled it that he didn't actually get off the plane in Japan. He actually flew first class from London to Haneda and then got a flight back to Frankfurt. So he never actually left the airport, and that's how he was somehow able to do this. While he's on the flight, this is like a $15,000 ticket. Normally, somehow he got it cheaper, obviously. A $15,000 ticket where you basically get you get Hibiki whiskey, you get $3,000 bottles of whiskey, you get $500 bottles of champagne, as much as you can eat and drink. And yet he slept for 8 of the 12 hours. I would be popping pills trying to stay awake. But I must admit, there's something really enjoyable about watching. I've never flown more. I've been bumped up to like business like a couple of times, and that was awesome. Especially lately, business, you can lie down flat on a lot of the new airplanes. That is wonderful. But I'm a strictly economy guy, so it's not like I know this world at all. But I must admit, I really am, for some reason, I'm enjoying every one of these videos. And this last one featuring a Japanese airline, again, maybe if you want to come back to Japan in style when things open up, do what that guy did. So I'm growing optimistic. Maybe it's the vaccine kicking in, but I'm seeing chances that we could be traveling soon. So that's me. We've got Kobaras Tenshi. You're rather desperate to get into the country. The faster you get out of Germany, the better. I won't ask what you're running away from, but there's a lot. I know there's a lot of people for a lot of reasons waiting to get into Japan and waiting to travel. They miss family that they want to leave Japan, or they want to. They've got jobs waiting that are on hold and lives that are on hold that they want to get in. So I totally understand that, Kobaras Tenshi. But if you want to do it, maybe do it in some style. Figure out how this guy did. Watch the channel. He gives tips at the end as to how he wangled the tickets really cheap. Even so, it's $15,000. So, I don't know how much cheaper it can be, but still it looks pretty nice. Next story, Paralympics. We had the Paralympics start this week. A bit of a debate. I think I talked about this a bit last week about the idea as to, again, should they have cancelled it? Yes, they should have cancelled it. Again, the medical system in Tokyo isn't equipped to be able to handle athletes with sports injuries and heat stroke. On top of everything else right now, the immigration system is overwhelmed, and people are bringing in cases. There are people linked with the Paralympics. It seems there have been 2 more cases of Lambda that have been caught at the airport. So and Tokyo's been overwhelmed with this huge wave, the worst that we've had so far. And the medical system's collapsed. How are we hosting the Paralympics? Paralympics are a wonderful thing, and I would love to support them. And it's gone ahead with children in school groups, basically watching in audiences, which again is also great for the education of kids to be able to see and respect and gain some empathy and understanding of people with disabilities. But at the same time, is it worth having them go on a group trip, and risking everything else to go and do that? So, from all of that, the New Zealand team skipped the opening ceremony of the Paralympics. They just thought it was safer to stay inside their rooms at the village. worried about, again, with New Zealand under full lockdown. It seems sort of bad taste for them to be gallivanting around in Tokyo, and Tokyo itself is going through a tough situation. So that kind of made sense. And perhaps the reason that made sense was not so much even the COVID. There is a problem, apparently, for all the demonstrations. Again, this is where this would have been such a wonderful event if it wasn't all done under lockdown. But, for the... among the many demonstrations of technology that they have, Toyota's provided these self-driving buses for the athletes' village, which can actually are driverless, and robot taxis can drive people to the different venues. However, and ideal for people with disabilities as well. You can think of the future where mobility, the challenges that people have in Tokyo with mobility. Again, if everybody can go around on automated robotic carriages and get everywhere, to be excellent for people with disabilities as well. So a great chance to showcase the technology. The problem being it's still new technology, and the Toyota driverless robot taxis apparently ran over one of the athletes and injured them so badly that they weren't able to participate in their event. Toyota has apologized for running over the Paralympic athletes that they were trying to advertise to and injuring them. So obviously the technology still needs some more work. I mean, if it's not COVID, it's going to be something else. I must admit that wasn't on my bingo card that we were talking about before, of things that can go wrong during the Olympics. I was not expecting the self-driving buses to run the athletes over, but in the end of the day, this is all going to be over on September the 5th, and once everyone's gone, I think then we'll be able to take stock of when we can open borders and start to have people travel into the country again. So, honestly, the thing I'm most looking forward to about the Paralympics right now, no disrespect to the athletes who, I wish the best, but I'm just looking forward till it's over now. I think we're ready to move on. But yeah, into the comments. Andrew Mulboy, good night. Have a good one. Magpie882, good to see you. Good evening. We've got, who else? Oh, yes, Cobras Tenchi. Sam Chui does the same. I've seen little bits of that as well. I only subscribe to the one channel, which I just stumbled across. But yes, indeed. Not on your bingo card at all, indeed, Aaron. Yeah. Next story, there's a interesting one. This week, the head of the Kudokai Yakuza gang in Fukuoka, in Kitakyushu City in Fukuoka, basically the gang single-handedly responsible for making all of Kyushu look like Japan's Sicily. Japan, of course, has Yakuza syndicates everywhere, nationwide, particularly in Western Japan, Osaka, the older parts of Japan, and Kyushu and so on. But the Kudokai kind of stands out within Japan as being famous for typically the idea. I mean, there is this kind of mythology that, Yakuza were sort of traditionally tolerated, or somehow some people would even buy Yakuza fan mags or whatever, because there was this idea that for the underclasses of society, the people that grew up in orphanages, or that grew up as Koreans or from discriminated classes or whatever, who through being born unlucky and without the advantages of other people, would end up through misfortune just in lives of street crime or whatever. The Yakuza were a way to collect all those people up, organize them, manage them, tolerate them engaging in vice and whatever in controlled ways, with certain understandings that they would cooperate with the police and not go over certain red lines. And those lines were that if you engaged in vice, if you went to girly bars or mahjong parlors and you gambled money and used, and you owed money or whatever, and you borrowed money from gangsters and whatever, that, once you put yourself in their, claws, then the police would really look the other way, and, you would be, your life would become hell when you become sort of entrapped by the Yakuza. But so long as you don't get engaged with them, so long as you're not in a gang fighting with another gang, or you're not engaging in illegal vice that necessitates engaging with Yakuza or getting loans from Yakuza, there was this idea that, in exchange for just focusing on a certain area of people that kind of deserve it, society would tolerate the existence of Yakuza. That's all BS, by the way. These are bad people that basically try systematically to catch people out, to entice people and draw people in, and they commit pretty heinous crimes, regardless of whether they deserve it or not, because they play mahjong, or because even because they're in another gang or whatever. They do pretty horrible murders and whatnot. But there is this concept of, civilians, people, bystanders, people who are not seeking to engage with Yakuza. There's this idea that, that they were tolerated because they would follow rules of not attacking civilians. The Kudokai in Kitakyushu, there's actually quite a good video I saw linked during the week that summarizes. It was written by someone in Japan, presented by someone in the UK who couldn't pronounce any of the place names properly, pronounced Kitakyushu wrong in 30 different ways in one video, but he summarized the story of the gang pretty well. Basically, they were so dominant and aggressive towards trying to corrupt construction bids and running extortion rackets on local businesses, that when some local businesses tried to at the behest of the police organize to not pay protection money to the Kudokai would retaliate by throwing hand grenades into restaurants that wouldn't pay protection money, i.e. they would attack machine guns, and they would use machine guns and hand grenades against total civilians, and they would also attack the police in their homes that were investigating them. They would basically shoot at, kill, murder police. So they were in a full-on war with police down there, and as a result, the police, cracked down, which resulted in escalations. And basically, this gang was responsible for just outrageous violence. And after a long campaign, I mean, the best part of the campaign against the Kudokai, to sort of bring them, to heel, basically to wipe them out from the police. In the end, apparently, when they were, when the gang was sort of shut down and forced out of their fancy headquarters, apparently the property was confiscated and auctioned off. And apparently the Police Veterans Union bought the property of the Kudokai so that they could smash down the building on it and make it into a parking lot. So now the Kudokai former building is now owned by the Kitakyushu Police, Veterans Association. But the gang itself, which is, responsible for numerous, killings and violent attacks, not just on, people who deserve it, but on, quote unquote civilians and police and so on. In the end of the day, the head of the gang was arrested and was tied to the murder of one person that he didn't do himself, but there was an assumption because he was the gang, the leader of the gang, that, they must have been under orders. Typically in Japan, you don't get the death sentence unless you've directly carried out multiple murders. In this case, it was sort of indirectly ordered the murder of one person, but with the recognition of the way that the Kudokai gang, had just terrorized the city Kitakyushu. Incidentally, point of history, in 1945, the bomb that went to Nagasaki was destined for Kitakyushu. It was actually too cloudy of a Kitakyushu, so they changed to their second target, but that was the city that would have been the second A-bombing target. This gang so terrorized, that city through such extreme violence. And this is in the time that I've been in Japan, that, it's just crazy. A country with no guns, they were running around doing drive-by shootings, bomb attacks, hand grenades on regular people in Kitakyushu, just to get them to pay protection money. They decided that they had to make an example. The head of this gang, they gave him the death sentence. They gave him the death penalty, and most of the media is endorsing that. I've seen some people on Gaijin Twitter saying, hey, they can't do that. He didn't even do it directly. That seems like it's inconsistent with the rules, but no one really disagrees with it, frankly. It's the first time ever that a Yakuza gang leader has been sentenced to death. Yakuza generally all over Japan are in decline as organizations, and their influence and police are really cracking down on them. But this is the first one where the gang was actually started to be treated like a terror group, just because they were literally doing like terrorist stuff. I think the way to look at this is that this is like a Japanese equivalent of a terrorist group leader, and that's why he's been executed. So interesting case there anyway. Into the comments, we've got the armed forces of organized crime. Japanese prosecutors are tyrannical. Interesting one. The armed forces, well, they certainly can be tyrannical. I mean, certainly that's what Carlos Ghosn said, although that was right before Carlos Ghosn illegally jumped bail and skipped the country to the Middle East to hide. But at the same time, well, the armed forces of organized crime. The Kudokai, among organized crime, even if you're a fan of organized crime, the Kudokai broke all the rules and conventions of organized crime itself. You could argue that they were actually giving organized crime a bad name. You know, they were setting precedents which are basically being used to justify attacking other groups. So even if you're pro-organized crime, which would be extremely strange, even then, how could you defend the freaking kudokai, the things that they were doing? So, you know, that's my view on that. JZM, other articles have said the driver overrode the car wanting to stop because they thought it would get out of the way. Oh, is that right? This is with the driverless bus. I didn't see that. So the driver overrode the car wanting to stop because they thought they'd get out of the way. Oh, so maybe it was a driver fault. Yeah, I'm interested in that anyway. I mean, it's new technology, so I think this sort of thing is inevitable, but yeah. Magpie 882, I didn't mean to read it, but yes, that's a nice one. I do appreciate that. Shrip it, we've got no, you mean they're in Hungary. I find it a bit embarrassing that there are so many people that think COVID is a hoax. How is it in Japan? There are conspiracy theorists in every country. There are groups that protest, you know, in small groups in public areas saying it's a hoax. There are people on Twitter that do that. There are people I know who chase those people on Twitter, but honestly, it's a country of 126 million people. I think humanity always has a certain minimum percentage of Fruit Loops, and I don't need to spend my life engaging with them. I think, honestly, percentage-wise, it's probably pretty low, but they're there. If you go looking for them, sure, they exist in Japan, totally. There are actual people who run for office. There are actual elected politicians and local governments who think it's a hoax. What can you do? Stupid people gonna stupid. Poverty is the cause of organized crime. Well, that's part of what I said. I mean, and discrimination is certainly part of it. But in the end of the day, I mean, and it's the cause of disorganized crime as well. But so the old myth, I think it is a myth, but the narrative that organized crime played a positive role in society by collecting up people who would otherwise be, you know, disorganized crime. I think that's increasingly less of an excuse, particularly in Japan, but certainly, yeah. Sorry, your name is just drawing my attention. I won't read a comment unless you flash it at me, but and I know that you're partly just sort of baiting at the moment, but in any case, no sympathy at all for the kudokai. Freaking hell, you know. So that's a thing that happened. I mentioned before about how Delta's putting the squeeze. They're showing the ways that I think businesses and society are going to make sure people get vaccinated. And how hesitant people who put others at risk are not going to have an easy time, and I think damn straight. I'm going to skip that one over. Oh yeah, the monkey. There was a monkey on the loose in Tokyo. Talk about organized crime. Here's the real deal. So I got, you know, being in the you know, having a kid in school, there are these sort of local district updates on. In fact, I wonder if it will do this without playing sound. It might not. You know what? I bet it. What's going to happen there? Are you going to see a monkey? Probably not. In fact, you know what? I'm worried about having a technical issue now, so I'm just going to boom. Done. Okay. There was a monkey. Let me explain. There, in Tokyo, there are school district updates that happen. What is happening there? The screen mirroring. Oh, I killed it. Give me a second. Boom. Boom. Okay, hopefully that'll fix it. Or not. Huh. The monkey killed the image. That is annoying. Give me a sec. Sorry, let me try to fix this. Let's turn on the AirPlay. Boom. Mirroring. Live. Come on. Anyway, there was a monkey. The monkey has actually caused me to lose my connection on this. So let me explain. I live in an area with the son going to school. There are updates that you get from the police if there are like suspicious people walking around. And one of those updates came in, but it wasn't about a suspicious person. It wasn't even in the area that I live. It was about a monkey on the loose in Tokyo. Of course, Japan has monkeys. There are Nipponzaru. They're literally Japan monkeys. And yeah, they are. Oh, that's so annoying that it won't connect. Come on, connect, live. I may well have lost the screen sharing. Okay, I'm gonna try to fix this. I apologize. Give me a second. Let me. Boom. Okay. Yes. Close it. Okay. Running now. Running. Done. Is that really gone? Air server. Something's happened there. Okay. Exit. Let's shut it down. I'm just going to try this one more time and then I'm going to give up. Okay, I've shut it down. Now I am... No. Task manager. Okay, I think I've got to give up. Air server. Let's end that completely. Open it up. Sorry about this. You know, it wouldn't be a show without a technical issue. There it goes. Keep you on time. Okay, let's try it now. And it's not working. So I think I've got to reboot. So I've got to give that up. Okay, anyway, so there was a monkey. Let me explain. Yeah, so there's a monkey on the... So let me start the story again. Technical issues, no more slides. That is a shame. But you know what? I can fix it. I can fix it. I can fix it. I know what to do. Okay, if this doesn't work, I will give up. Okay, I'm trying to connect from a different device and it is still freaking out. So yeah, it's the computer side that's not working. So okay, that's done. So anyway, there's a monkey on the loose in Tokyo. Let me explain. You don't normally get monkeys. You get them all over the place in Japan, but not inside Tokyo. Apparently one was spotted in Arakawa-ku, and yeah, it was actually causing... I wanted to show you the video because it was actually the TV crews running all over Tokyo trying to find this one monkey. It's like a little cat-sized monkey that's running around. They can be pretty nasty in towns that have them and have a lot of them. They can attack people. They're pretty mobile. They bite and whatnot. You know, you can get rabies and stuff from them. So, you know, you don't want to approach them. And that's what the notice was. If you see a monkey, run away and don't startle it. Don't try to feed it. So, yeah, TV crew started scouring Tokyo for the monkey. And one TBS camera crew found it. And when they did, they immediately startled it and chased it. They did all the things while warning people not to do what they were doing. The monkey got away. It's still been on the loose for a couple of days. It's been migrating from Nishi-Nippori through Nippori through Kitaku. And yeah, no update. They haven't been able to catch it. The police were sort of chasing it. It was great entertainment on the news. But yeah, monkey on the loose in Tokyo. It was actually, it was kind of nice. It was nice to see something different. So that was a thing that happened. Yeah, other news stories that have been happening. Thank you, Erin. Oh, that's so annoying. I do have the Flipboard all here, but yeah. Another story that happened this week that got a lot of attention on Gaijin Twitter. Apparently a Japanese person went into a convenience store and pulled out a knife at the clerk and said, "Give me money. By the way, I am Vietnamese." He decided to put on a fake foreign accent and was wearing a mask, hoping that he could pass himself off as a Vietnamese person. So of course, Vietnamese person. So of course, the apart from not just being outraged at the fact that a scumbag would try to rob a convenience store, but they were sort of being kind of racist on top of it and trying to pin the blame on foreign crime. Was sort of doubly outrageous. So I saw some sympathetic voices point out that, they felt sorry for the fact the person was in a situation that they were robbing a convenience store in the first place. And I'm sure that there is a sad story behind it, which I might even feel sorry for if the sad person wasn't racist. But that's a thing that happened. Another awful case that happened in Shirokane Takanawa Station on the Mito line in Tokyo. Pretty awful attack. There was a person walking with a woman in this train station and was approached by somebody all dressed in black, wearing gloves and carrying a bottle of sulfuric acid, which he threw over the person. The person got burns all over his body and lost his eyesight and was in hospital. The police showed video footage of the person, who's pretty hard to recognize given that he was wearing a hat and a mask and was all sort of covered up. They suggested it was someone who looked like they were in their 30s to 50s and looked like it may have been a professional, and not clear if that was somebody who was if it was a random attack or not. And again, you got the train system in Tokyo. It's pretty, you use the common transportation system with tens of millions of people every day. So, the idea of random attacks on public transport is pretty scary. It turns out they arrested the person today. The person responsible for the attack was apparently at the same university, was in the same university circle as the person who was attacked. He was his senpai. And he was 25 years old. So he wasn't old, he wasn't a professional. Apparently they were from Okinawa, and this person had moved to Tokyo, and the senpai had some sort of grudge against him and tracked him down and threw sulfuric acid over him. Thank heavens he was arrested back in Okinawa. But, there are some things, again, when you talk about, I commented on this, that when you have things like facial recognition, in public, I think it'd be a useful tool for train stations to be able to identify and block. I think you should lose your privileges for life of being able to use trains if you do something like this in a train station, particularly if it's, random. But even if it's like targeted like this, that's just crazy and scary, and I'm glad they got the guy. Another interesting story that came up during the week, the TV broadcasting sort of ombudsman in Japan, the broadcasting standards, has suggested setting up new standards that will prohibit the broadcast of comedy where the laughs are drawn from inflicting pain on other people. So immediately Japanese Nichan sort of saw that story and reacted, "Oh my God, that's like, there'll be no Japanese TV left. That's like all of it. That's all the comedy." That's pretty much all that it is. It's just beating people, pouring hot water over people. And by the way, I saw a lot of, again, on Gaijin Twitter, I saw lots of people commenting, "Oh, I saw horrible things where people are boiling hot water and it looked terrible." First thing is, you should understand about Japanese TV. It is 100% fake. It is all fake. It is all staged. Every spontaneous conversation is scripted. All those panels where people offer their opinions off the cuff about what they think about the news, it's all scripted. Those things where, like, as a punishment on a game show where they go and they sit in a vat of hot water and they go, it's all hot, and run around everywhere. That water's probably not hot at all. They're just acting to play up that it's hot and make it, for the laugh. It's all fake. It's all staged. So don't worry about that. The problem is, of course, that kids watch that and then, they think it's funny to torture people, and then they do that. And they bully people by doing that, thinking that they're imitating their comedians from TV. And it's the educational perspective that's causing the ombudsman to say, why don't we just start with the torture humor? On the one hand, I don't find that stuff funny. And what I find less funny even than the humor and knowing that it's fake is the fact that it's always just the same boring talento over and over. Particularly depressing that the same talento that were like new and young on TV when I got here 20 years ago are still on TV, still dominating the airwaves. There's been no new people come on the TV like the whole time I've been in Japan. They're just getting old, which also just strikes me as just bad. Bad for society anyway. They should just be clearing those people out. All of that said, I do remember I vividly remember the first time I ever watched a comedy thing that I understood, and it was really violent. It was a skit on the Japanese 1990s Osaka show called Downtown. Machan and Hamachan, the sort of in the end they were like the most famous comedians in Japan, most successful ones in Japan. And in New Zealand, my Japanese friends would have videos of Gotsue Kanji, of their sort of variety show, of all the skits that they would sort of do. And it was a lot of word-based humor and a lot of stuff I couldn't understand. I was a Japanese student in New Zealand. The first skit I ever watched, after hours of like watching this comedy and everyone laughing and not being able to get any of it and getting really upset by it and really stressed out. Finally, the skit that I laughed at, Oya-san, was basically just a repeating skit week by week in a different setting, where the customer would walk up and there'd be like the new young person, like at the ramen restaurant. There'll be the old master of the shop walking around in the background and the young new apprentice in the front, and a customer who'd come in. And basically, whenever the customer would say, "Hey, could I please have some salt for the ramen?" And as soon as he said, "Oh yes, sir," as soon as he'd pass the salt, the old master of the shop would just violently attack him, and he'd have like blood machines installed, so like he'd beat him, and it would escalate where like there would be blood shooting out everywhere, and like the apprentice would be like, "Oh, I'm okay, no, everything's good." And it was extremely violent, but I could understand it, so I laughed my head off and I almost cried. I was like emotionally moved that I could understand Japanese comedy now. But looking back, that's pretty messed up. So yeah, they've probably got a point there. Another story that I have, by the way, I'm just racing through. I'll go through the comments at the end. I'm so annoyed that the screen sharing broke. I've probably just got to reboot the computer. There's the monkey. I tried to show the monkey, and that's what happens. There's New Zealand, of course, already has a space company, Rocket Lab, which is already launching satellites and probes to Venus and everything. I can't believe that a company from New Zealand is launching rockets. It's really cool. But there's another New Zealand company called Dawn Aerospace, which is actually building carbon fiber space planes that will basically take off and land like an airplane and be reusable, but be able to launch satellites. This is something that America's tried, UK has tried, they've all failed. And they've just actually started to launch, they're actually performing 5 launches on a suborbital, go up to space and come back down again, not go into orbit. But the plan is to be fully orbital. And, they're actually launching the trials of this right now in New Zealand. So they're like 2 full-on space companies in New Zealand right now, which is crazy and cool, and I love it. That's the thing that's happening. There's a big piece in the Sydney Morning Herald in Australia talking about the challenges of the parental. I've talked about this before, about the fact that Japan only offers sole custody in the case of divorce, and the parental custody issues that Japan has with the rest of the world. Apparently, the Japanese embassies or consulates in many countries, including in France and Australia, actually organized seminars where they brought in Japanese lawyers to basically coach Japanese parents on how to kidnap their kids back to Japan and avoid having to share custody with their foreign spouses overseas, how to get them back, and coaching them that, you'll need to say that there was drug use and violence and so on, and that it would be psychologically harmful for the child to go back. And the situation that this puts a lot of people in, including people in Australia and so on, and the problems with the custody system in Japan, and the pressure that's being brought on Japan that seems to be working to an extent, but still things, are taking a long time. So that was it's a very good read. It's in my Flipboard. I shared it during the week on my Twitter. Third to last story that I've got is Japan sent an evacuation couple of planes. It took them a week to send the planes, and by the time they got there, they were able to get out the Japanese staff from the Japanese embassy, but they were planning to evacuate 500 Afghanistani staff from the Japanese embassy. But that was right when the airport attacks happened in Kabul, and in the end they were only able to fly out 1 person. They went back for a second flight to pick up 25 Afghan refugees that the Americans asked them to pick up. But they've completely failed at looking after their own Afghan staff from their embassy in Japan, and this is basically just the result Nikkei put it down to. It's just the Japan government was just too slow to make a decision. The Korean government, by contrast, got all their embassy staff out and their people, and they used special forces to make sure that they were safe and to get them out efficiently. Japan's just not able to do it. Just makes them look like, again, they can't protect people that, took care of them. It's kind of a shame. There was a case I think I mentioned the other week about a Russian man last week I mentioned who swam 20 kilometers from Kunashiri, I believe, one of the 4 occupied Japanese islands that Russia has right off the Japanese coast of Hokkaido, and how he swam across the water to get into Japan. Turns out apparently this Russian person had lived in Japan in 2011 and was deported from Japan back to Russia for overstaying his visa. Apparently he bought a house like in a part of Russia as close as possible to Japan. He filled it with posters of Japanese pop culture. And apparently he wasn't aware that if you live on that island, you're allowed visa-free access to travel by ferry to Japan anytime that you like. He didn't actually have to swim. But he did. Apparently he wasn't aware about that. And he's claiming asylum in Japan, but Japan's noticed that he's already broken Japan's immigration rules before, so he might get sent back again. But still, I think, of all the people keen to get into Japan, I think he is the king. And the final story that I had tonight was, that the government approval ratings were going into the LDP Prime Minister sort of internal election. But right now, the percentage of people who currently support the current government are 26%, and the people who do not support are 66%. Approval rating of the pandemic response is 70% disapprove. So getting as bad as things have ever gone, actually getting into worst in history territory right now. But for all that said, there's no opposition to really stand up against them. So that's what's happening with that. Those are all the stories. I'm sorry that the slides broke down. I'm going to go into the comments and then I'm going to sign out for the evening. It's 11:43. I'm over time, but that's what you expect. I'm pretty much on time being overtime, I guess. But yes, you have to imagine the monkey that messed up my video. Yes. Let's go back. Okay, so comments, final comments. We've got AV84K. Did police tell the monkey to stop monkeying around? I'm sure they did. That and many other things. Cobras Tenshi, Japan has quite the problem with wild animals on the loose, like wolf dogs. Okami. I don't know okami. Are you talking about raccoon dogs? Tanuki are everywhere. Yeah, those are a thing, including hakubishin as well lately. Now you've got civets and stuff like that. Yeah, there's definitely... The thing about Japan is that Tokyo is enormous, but it's also incredibly dense, and it's not far to get to mountains, and to rugged nature. The thing, and when you get to it, it's so rugged, it's so mountainous that you can't build anything on it. So yeah, absolutely. That's a good point, Kubra Stanchi. There is nature not far away from anywhere. Magpie 882, if you add the monkey to Bora, Inoshishi, yeah, that was running around in January 2020. That was in Fukuoka, by the way. They have the full Zodiac set. Indeed. The Zodiac monkey. That could very well be the case. The Inoshishi are scary as hell. I mean, boars, right? Those things can do a lot of damage to people. Sergeant Booker, just have to pretend that you see a monkey. Indeed, that's what I needed you to do just now. Quinn Rankin, lose your right to use trains? What would we call it? Maybe a social credit score? No, I'm just thinking about the ability to refuse service. If you shoplift, in a shop can refuse to allow you on premises. I don't think people have a right to use private subway lines, and I think subway lines should have the ability to identify and refuse entry to people who have committed crimes or violated, treat them as trespassers. I'm not talking about social credit scores, Quentin Rankin. I'm talking about trespass and being able to enforce trespass against people. If you pour sulfuric acid on someone, I think you should be able to refuse their business. That's my opinion. It's the freedom of business owners to refuse business to people. That's what I'm talking about. Koboros Tenshi, all pretty much one-trick ponies like Atsugiri Jason. Well, Atsugiri Jason, don't be harsh on Atsugiri Jason. He's a good guy, it seems, and he doesn't at least torture people, which is a positive. At least in Japan, it's one worth noting. AV84K, British comedy is much more fun, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm a fan of British comedy as well. In fact, I've been very much into lately, I've been binge watching Foil Arms and Hog. I mentioned it last week. They're like an Irish comedy troupe. Irish people, I like British comedy. I like the dark sort of wit, but the Irish are just like, they're the funniest. They're the reasons that Australians are more funny than New Zealanders as well, because they've got more Irish over there. Cobras Tenchi, Virgin Galactic launched a rocket into space from a B-747. There's a fixed point under the wing for mounting an additional engine. Yes, indeed, Virgin Galactic did do that, but they didn't do it. It's not a horizontal. Well, I suppose it is horizontal takeoff from the. Well, they've got the suborbital plane, of course, the tourist one. But the Brits actually planned a rocket called HOTOL, and it never got done. But the idea was it would be a single body thing that would go from the ground to space and back to Earth. And no one's ever pulled it off. And this New Zealand company is planning to do that. It'd be really interesting to see if they can do it. It would be a drone. It wouldn't be manned, but it'd still be pretty interesting. Cobras Tenshi, Okami Inu, a mixed breed of wolves and dogs. I'm not aware of that as a thing. Okay, I've never heard of that, but sounds pretty scary. Japanese wolves were exterminated because of mass hunting. Well, indeed, I can imagine that. Yes, Shubis, smash the otherwise endorsed by hitting the like button. Yes, I understand about trains and trespass, but I think if you pour acid on someone, you shouldn't have to worry about your transportation, except otherwise to prison. I completely agree with you. Hey, everyone, we were over time tonight. I'm sorry about the monkeys ruining my screen capture feed. I won't do that again. But still, if you like this every week, I do appreciate it. If you could hit the like button, I do appreciate it. It helps the channel. If you watch this and you want to keep up with what's going on in Japan and watch this every week, I'm here at 10:30 p.m. same place every week. I've got nowhere else to go, but you can subscribe. It helps the channel and it'll help you remember when something's on. But yeah, please like the video if you did like. Hope you all have a good week. Stay safe. Get vaccinated. Don't take animal medicines or anything, or any medical advice from Facebook or anything like that. Yeah, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and hopefully we're like a couple of weeks from when the Olympics are over. Hopefully I'll have more good news about cases continuing to go down, but we'll see. It might bounce back, and hopefully we'll be talking about travel reopening soon, so I'm really looking forward to that. So anyway, have a good week, everybody. And hello, my fellow viewers. Can you please help me test the like button? If you haven't pressed it yet, please do. I want to see if that'll work. Yeah, do what Quint Ranked suggests there. That will help. Have a good week, everybody. Take care. Boom. Peace. Somehow we always end up at the same time. I was going for 10:30 for 11:30 this week, but is what it is. The Armed Forces of Organized Crime. Thank you. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and come back next week. And Randy Broski. Nice to see Randy Broski there. Have a good week. See you later. Boom.